Ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at a 30-year-old man. And for 25 of those 30 years, I've been playing chess. For the past decade, I have not been able to break past my highest ever rating on chess.com. It was in the mid-2800s, but 3 months ago, I crossed 2900. And as we all know, what happens when you break through a rating peak? You immediately fall back down. But in today's video, I'm extremely excited, proud to report to all of you, I crossed 3,000. I'm now in like the top 500 maybe players in the world on chess.com amongst a super elite group. And in this video, I will show you 4 games against grandmasters that got me to 3,000. The last game was a win over Fabiano Caruana, the number 3 ranked player in the world, a candidate. At the time of recording this video, he will be playing in the candidates tournament, trying to become the world champion ultimately. So just super proud. I'm super appreciative of your support. And yeah, if I'm your favorite chess teacher, chess clown, chess entertainer, just know that we're all in this together. And even at my ripe old age of 30 with 25 years of experience, it still feels so good. I still feel so proud when I play good chess. Now, these are 3-minute games on chess.com. They are not 90-minute games. They're not classical games. Still, it feels kind of nice to rack up these wins against extremely strong opposition. So this first game is against Edgar Mamedov. He is a Kazakh grandmaster. I think he might be 20, maybe a little bit younger. Super interesting game. All these games were interesting. The second game I'm showing you against Benjamin Bach was a clown fiesta. It was really funny. And then, yeah, the other two, well, we got a game against Crescent Moon. This is Vietnamese grandmaster, and Fabiano Caruana is Fabiano Caruana. So we'll kick things off here. Eagle 2019, he's not born in 2019. He's not 7 years old. So in this game, I play the move b6. This is an anti-queen's gambit. White plays d4, c4, and I try to put my bishop on b7, controlling the center. It's got certain tricks associated with it. But then my opponent plays the critical move, which is queen c2. So he doesn't develop his knight or his bishop like this. He prepares the immediate move e4, and so he's trying to get as big of a center as possible. Historically, the best move here has been pawn to d5. Modern day engines, however, allow you to play this utterly ridiculous move, knight to c6. And the point is, you want to throw the knight to b4, which is actually the best move, knight to b4, and then after knight to b4, sometimes you even take the knight completely so that white has a damaged structure and loses a little bit of support in the center. It's really crazy. I play this in a very different way. I just set up a bunch of pawns along the 6th rank. I wanted to put my bishop on g7, castles, and so on. Traditionally speaking, and according to the principles of chess, of course, white has a much better position here because white just takes a monster amount of space. But 0.7 in blitz, and especially at like lower level chess, 1,000, 1,500, even 2,000, 0.7 means nothing. Even +1 in the opening doesn't mean anything. Because ultimately what happens when one side has a lot more space and the other side doesn't have as much space, provided they still played relatively principled chess, if my knights were like there and so on, it would be much worse. Black will catch up, and what will happen is you'll get into a grappling match. It's like when, you grab the shoulders of a person and they grab yours, and you kind of use the momentum to sort of throw one another, and that's going to happen. Look no further than this position when I strike the center, and now white's advantage is very minimal. He probably should take, which is what he does. He also needs to finish up his development, and in this position, what's interesting is I actually play a bad move, even though I thought my move was really natural. Like, here's a fascinating question. Like, do you take this pawn with the pawn or with the knight? And do you want to trade these knights or not? It's really hard to know. Maybe for a really strong player, it's very easy to know. I thought if I take like this, well, then my bishop is going to be quite strong, pointed at the center. That's actually wrong. I should take with the pawn so that I use the d4 square for my knight, and I use the same idea to activate my bishop, but instead of that, I don't make this trade. Very instructive. I guess this knight is just, it's not particularly great, so trading it off for mine is not the best plan, but that's what I went for. I mean, it's a speed game. You try to do what you can. So you'll notice both of us are fighting for key squares. A square in the opponent's position where you can establish a dominant piece presence, a square from which you cannot be easily removed, is called an outpost. So my opponent is looking here, and I'm looking there, either with bishop or whatever, not with my queen, because then it would just be attacked. But this will be covered with c6, and that's what I went for. So my opponent went here, and I played this move h6, first trying to push his bishop back, and then I played this move c6. It's an ugly move, but it disallows the knight from ever going to these two squares, and maybe I'll move my bishop, like there or here, to a6. Oh my goodness. Can't draw arrows. And then I'm going to move my queen, I'm going to move my rook, I'm going to reroute my knight. I have a book coming out in October 2026 called How to Win at Chess Next Level for intermediate players. I'm very proud of that book. Mark it down if you want to become a strong intermediate and advanced player. And in that book, we talk a lot about outposts, reroutes, a knight moving backwards and then repositioning itself to a dominant square. So that's all going to come up in this game. So watch, I move my queen, right? I move my rook. And this move I think is just bad because after I get my rook here and play c5, I just establish a really dominant outpost square, and that's exactly what I did. And I thought I was just totally shutting down this game. Now my opponent can go knight to d5. I'm going to give away my bishop. Why am I going to trade my bishop here instead of my knight? Well, it's a closed position, and in a closed position, a knight thrives. You'll notice that these bishops are not particularly useful, especially the light squared bishop. When you have a lot of pawns on the same color square as your bishop is less effective. Whereas I have I have a lot of pawns on dark squares. I have 5 to 2. Well, how am I going to activate my bishop? I'm going to activate my bishop on this long diagonal. And my bishop is going to be absolutely fantastic. My bishop, you'll notice, is going to hang out with all the light squared pawns. And that's the way you have to make your bishop stronger. So I move my queen over here, out of the way of the pin. My opponent plays a4, and I play h5. And I thought here, this is going to be quite easy. I mean, I'm just taking over the game. My opponent's trying to do something over here, create a pawn break. This is actually in How to Win at Chess Next Level. It's chapter 2 on pawns. He's trying to make a pawn break. And I jump in with my knight to put some pressure on his position. Now, here's a critical moment. If you're looking at this position, what is the better way to take back this rook? Actually, no. I was going to set up a little question for you, but it's simply a stupid question. I was going to say strategically speaking, but it's not strategic. There is a knight hanging. So you would have to play pawn takes rook. I was going to ask you a little bit more conceptually like this. Instead of that, I'm the sacrifice the rook guy, right? Of course I can take like this but I want it to be a little bit fancy. So I actually took the bishop. And my idea here was that if he takes me like this, then I'm going to take, and we're going to get both of these pawns rolling down the board. If he doesn't take, then I'm going to go back with my knight and reestablish an outpost on d4 where my knight is just thriving. It's defended by 2 pawns and a bishop. You can never remove it. You're going to have to sacrifice material for it, and I do have an advantage. And then I marched into his position, put the bishop on d4, and I thought, like, it was just a matter of time. I mean, I'm going to go e3, I'm going to go queen h4, I'm going to go queen, I'm just going to... But he's a grandmaster, so he started fighting back. He sacked his bishop, and then he won my center pawn. So he has a rook for a knight and a bishop, but my king is open. Now I have to desperately defend my king, but I do have a major time advantage. He speeds up here, and I start panicking a little bit. He's going to go for some crazy counterplay. Look at this. Out of nowhere, he's in my territory, and his king is totally safe. I'm on the back foot now, scrambling to get out of the position, but I win his pawn. Now his counterplay is a little bit lower, and he's only got like 10 seconds here, but I have 24. He's hunting my king. Look at me, protecting my king. I'm giving him checks, going down, check, queen f3. He goes queen d2. And this move actually comes with a poison dart, which I cannot stop. I cannot stop the move here, and I totally, I guess I could maybe go queen g4, but I totally misevaluate, and I go here. And he hits me with this, and now he has 3.5 seconds. And I'm like, okay, I have a draw, I gotta give him checks, but it's blitz, and I'm gonna sack my queen because he only has 2 seconds. There's no way he can beat me with 2 seconds on the clock in this position. He goes here because he wasn't expecting my move, and I pre-moved this. I only spent 0.1 seconds. I could have, of course, taken his queen, and ultimately, he gets just enough. He hung his queen one more time, but we were in a crazy scramble, and in this position, I win the game on time. Now, obviously, the finish of the game is completely ridiculous, and would never happen in like a world championship match, but the time you spend in a game, you cannot be mad that you end up with low time, right? Like if you play 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, you run out of time. Yes, you can be mad at your opponent. Oh, they beat me on time. But ultimately, you signed up for a contract where you play with an allotted amount of time. And if you inefficiently used your time in the beginning because the position was difficult and you didn't like it, that's life. I also lose games on time. But this was a crazy game, and I was really happy with how I handled the middle game, you know, establishing the key square over here, advancing on multiple sides of the board. I thought it was very instructive. Now, this game against Benjamin Bach is almost like an interlude. You'll notice my rating is 2976. I played a Trompowsky against him, and I actually caught him with a little bit of opening preparation. This crazy little idea, knight e5 followed by g4. It's when in the Trompowsky they move their bishop to the f5 square. I analyzed this recently. Then I forgot everything. Here I'm actually supposed to play f3. That would have been the best move. But I didn't play that, which is funny. And then I ended up in a position where I had no real advantage. And I made a couple trades, played queen d4, and I just thought, well, I take a pawn, and he can't go here because I'm going to play queen h7. So he has to play a move like this. And now I'm thinking, well, I'm going to lose a pawn, or maybe this pawn, and maybe this pawn, so I might as well start eating a few of his pawns. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to end up in some queen and rook endgame, right? And it should be just equal. Now, what's funny is the best move here is to play the move f4. It's to allow him to take my pawn with check, which is not something that I saw, and then just go up because suddenly my rook comes in. To be honest, I should have seen this. It's not that difficult. When I play these strong players, though, sometimes I'm so scared to allow any complications near my own king. But this would have been totally chill, and here I can play like queen f3, make this trade. He plays like rook d8, but I mean, I think white is just very comfortable here. f4 would have been the best move. I went a little crazy, though, and I did this, and this is wrong because he's going to be just in time here to win a bit of material. What's funny is he's totally winning in this position. So he played perfectly, but then he was looking to checkmate me, and he couldn't find a way. He has a very simple move here. He can sack his queen for my rook, and we both missed this. He spent 6 seconds and played rook e2 with the idea to set up the rook doubling and also maybe to take the pawn on e5, and that's what happened. Queen h1 just wins, because what it does is it makes me take, and now this line is open to my king, and rook f1 is check, and I lose. The difference is that, you know, if he took this rook, like if the position looked like this is not mate because this is not a check. I don't have to take the rook. The difference with my rook over there is it's check, and I have to take the rook. And I think we sort of both hallucinated this, and ultimately he tried to attack me by sacrificing, but I got 2 rooks off the board, and this position, if anything, is going to be a win for white, because 2 rooks are generally better than a queen in certain situations. This is one of those situations where you protect every pawn and you just escort the pawn down the board. At this point, he has to make a draw. Because if he plays something like queen a6, I mean, over the long run, I actually think he did that. Like, I'm going to bring my rook, and then I'm going to take his pawn, and he's not going to be able to stop me. So we made a draw. What's funny about this game is Benjamin Bach won this tournament, beat everybody, only drew against me. So maybe it's an accomplishment that I drew the guy that literally beat everybody else, or maybe it's an accomplishment for him to draw me because I'm 3,000. And I have so many YouTube subscribers, really, I don't know. But this game was unbelievably stupid because we both missed that he could just simply take my rook and checkmate me instantly. So you do need a little bit of luck. Luck is okay. Luck is part of the game. Sometimes you have bad luck and you lose a bunch of games. Sometimes you get lucky and win or draw games that you had no business winning or drawing. And that's how it goes. The next game, another game where I don't know what happened at the end. The conclusion of this game is really crazy. But the game itself was actually really fascinating. It was a really interesting game. So my opponent played e4. You'll remember I had another game when I was going up to 2950 or 2900. I played against Crescent Moon, whose name is Nguyen Trong Son. I don't know how to pronounce NGOC. That one I've never seen. The other ones, Nguyen Trong Song, Vietnamese Grandmaster. In this game, I played a French. I played a French defense. My opponent played the advanced French, taking space. You try to fight back against the center. And then what I did here is I went knight e7 and knight c6. This is a slightly unorthodox approach where you take 2 moves to move that knight to c6 instead of going this way. because on this part of the board, the knight could be subjected to some pawn attacks. In French advanced positions with e5, d4, c3, like this, this also happens sometimes in the winnower French, white likes to attack over here because white has a space advantage. Usually black will castle the king there, and even if they don't, that's the side of the board that you attack. The reason you like to keep this knight here is you like to trade your bishop, and that is exactly what I went for, bishop a6. Honestly, this is a really nice position to play with black. My opponent took and then simply developed the bishop. I brought my bishop out and my knight back, so my knight's not standing there. And now I sort of choose. You know, over the next few moves, I'm going to decide exactly how I'm going to play this position. Knight e1 to me was a declaration of hostility. My opponent wants to play the move f4. Now, I could have made a waiting move here. I could have maybe taken some space. I could have waited for the attack to come. Instead, I was like, well, the attack is coming, so I'm going to play f5. Now, f5 is a good idea, but not without f4. So, for example, if I played f5, a5, f4, and then maybe here I went f5, there would be certain problems because the f-pawn could come forward. But really, you want to save f5 for the right moment. You know, you want maybe the queen to be here to play this move f5. Instead, I went f5. My opponent took en passant. I took with the pawn. He gave me check, and I just put my king on d7. And to be honest with you, when I was looking at this during the game, I thought, okay, my king is out in the open a little bit, but he has a really nice little, you know, he's got some protection here. It's like being on the beach in the rain. It's not so bad. It's warm. It feels nice, you know? He took my pawn. I took back. And now he has a target. This is how grandmasters operate, right? He has a target, so he's going to put his knight on d3 and knight on b3. And what am I going to do? Well, I'm obviously going to defend my pawn. And when he comes here, well, I have to push it. Otherwise, I'm going to lose it. Now, notice I'm not playing the move queen to b6. This would protect my pawn, but it would subject me to a pin. And I really urge you to be careful defending yourself, but putting yourself in a pin. When you play queen b6, you make a lifetime commitment. It's like taking out a loan, but having a 15% interest rate. Like, if you need it, what can I say? You know, but that's how loan sharks make their cash. Instead, I just push the pawn forward. It's a fork, but this move comes with a check. We simplify down. And I have to tell you, I actually liked this position. I did not think that it was so much better for white. And you're about to see why. First of all, I have attacking possibilities on this king. Second of all, I don't know how he's going to break this apart. Third of all, I see an outpost square brewing. Second time in this video, we're talking about establishing outpost squares. I want this knight to be there. Can you imagine if I go knight e5, knight to d3, defended by this pawn, maybe defended by another pawn? My knight on d3 is going to be a monster. You know who else had a knight on d3? Garry Kasparov. This is why you have to study your classics. After this, Garry Kasparov Octopus Knight. You got to look it up because it can control 8 squares in the opponent's territory. And I'm thinking my king is pretty safe. So I go queen e8. Why do I go queen e8? Why would I want a queen trade here? Why would I want that? My king is weak. But watch what happens if my opponent trades the queen. 1.7? Minus 0.1. A 2-point turnaround if my opponent trades the queen and the game is equal. The best move is to go queen h3. I don't think my opponent played that. Now I take over the g file, f3, and now I'm ready to bring my knight. And look at this. Within a couple of moves, it's only 0.7. So the position is back to balanced simply by me playing dynamic chess. My opponent takes. I take with a knight. I like that square too. I keep my king very well protected. My knight is beautiful. And this opened up the b file where I am ready to go as well. I'm ready to meet my opponent right there. So rook b8. Rook b8, I set up a little trap. Rook b8, this is a pin, which means the queen is attacking the knight. The pawn is no longer defending the knight. But the queen is defending mate. Be careful. And the other idea of rook to b8 was this move. Now here, white played g3. So now I cannot take on g3 because I would be losing a queen. And my knight is threatened. Or is it? Rook b2. The idea of rook b2 is that if my opponent were to go here, I would sack my queen. And then we would make a draw. Isn't that crazy? A queen sacrifice to make a draw. Now, did I set out with the beginning of the game to make a draw? No, but sometimes that's the best that you can get. So queen takes c4 would have been possible. But then queen g3. And here, I don't really know what happened. Maybe my opponent mouse slipped, but my opponent went queen f2. And I took the queen. and my opponent resigned. I don't know if my opponent mouse slipped the move queen c4 and just landed there. That's the brutal nature of chess sometimes. This was a very interesting game before, but I got a lucky win here. I mean, it would have been a draw, but I think it was a very fascinating game where, despite me having no king safety, it's still instructive how one square in the opponent's position is basically what I use to equalize. And you'll notice, like, that's the square that I went for. I mean, I wanted the queens off, I wanted to play knight d3, and the dynamic here of bishop versus knight, very instructive dynamic, how you anchor a piece to a color complex, and then you also protect your king. Look, this is a very deceiving thing, this scoreboard, this eval bar. 0.9 doesn't mean a damn thing, really. Here, white is 1.6 if white plays this move. But apparently if white plays this move, white is only 1.3 or 1.2. Why? Nobody really knows. Now suddenly it's only 0.7. Why? You defended mate. Well, apparently it was better to defend mate by being more aggressive. Okay, well so... Yeah, analyzing your own games with the evaluation bar can be a little bit deceiving. And that brings us to this game. Before this game, I was rated 2,987. I had gone up to 2,980, and then I would lose, and then I saw I was paired against Fabiano Caruana. 3,242. What's insane is our record on chess.com is 2-6. I've actually beaten Fabi before. This was only, I beat him once. I thought I beat him like 3 or 4 times, but that's completely not true. I've only beaten him once. And in this game, you will remember that I went for the exact same system that I played against Mamedov. I played g6, and Fabi, played like this against me, and he can play e5 here, but then I would move my knight around, or I would go to g8 and then reposition it. He played h3, just a simple improving move. And then here he played bishop e3. What's really annoying about this position is every move Fabi is playing is the top move of the computer. a3 is the top move of the computer. e4 is the top move of the computer. h3 is one of the top moves. And now bishop here, because the idea is to stabilize the center, and you prevented knight to g4. So, of course, I can castle. But I was thinking maybe Fabi is waiting for me to castle because then he's going to start an attack. So I made a waiting move myself. He made a waiting move. And now I was like, well, I'm at a waiting move, so let's castle. And he actually castled this way. I thought maybe he could long castle and checkmate me. And now I'm thinking, okay, so I'm playing, a candidate. I'm playing the person who owns like the second highest rating ever in the history. So, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Let's just, figure it out. So I go e5. I do the same thing I do against Mamedov. Here's the difference. After d5 and me moving my knight, I'm just passive, and Fabi, he's 2,840 peak rating for a reason, 2,850 peak rating for a reason. He's obviously just going to come over here and just try to, completely destroy me. Now I'm thinking, okay, I can either just sit around and be smushed, or we can fight back. I think c5 is actually a pretty reasonable move, because if he doesn't take me en passant, he never gets to play c5, and that's a key idea of this position. So he takes me en passant, and I take, and he goes knight d5. Now, I could take with the knight, but then my bishop will be horrible. I could take with the bishop, because my bishop is going to be horrible otherwise, or I can move the queen. Moving the queen back was probably the more prudent move. I did this. Yeah, and the game is about to get very challenging, because I go for queen f8 looking to trade his bishop, and he just establishes an extremely dominant square on c6. And he's up 40 seconds on the clock. 40 seconds. 45 to be exact, and you only get 3 minutes for the whole game. Things are not looking very good for old Gotham. I trade his bishop, right? You'll notice I try to trade the dark squared bishop so that he loses what I think is probably a very strong piece, but his light squared bishop is extremely powerful, and he's going to come into this position and I think wallop me. Time to start going backwards. I'm just sitting back. Fabi has to come into my position, and he has to take whatever he wants. He establishes this. I have to move out of the way, because if I take, his pawn captures and walks into my position. He goes queen g3. I didn't quite understand this move, and he spent 20 seconds on it. I still didn't really get it, so I just make a little improving move. 26-second time advantage for Fabi. Very good position, but where's the win? He goes bishop b5. I even thought here I can just move like around with my king. I tried to kick out his rook. I did kick out his rook, but then I tried to kick out his bishop, and this is a terrible move. Why? Because, of course, I'm thinking, well, a6, he's going to move his bishop. No. In chess, there is something I like to call superseding concepts. Bishop, of course, relative to this knight, I mean, the bishop looks like it totally dominates the knight. But it's a very normal idea to capture a really passive piece like this if the really passive piece defends important squares. And that is why I needed to actually bring my knight back. I needed that knight to be in the way of the bishop, not this knight. When I lose this knight, just this simple trade, it is now plus 3.5, 3.7, because Fabi goes here. And after this, I'm pretty sure there's like a million ways to win this position, and he goes knight takes d6. Knight takes d6 is by far the most vicious way to win the position, because if I take, he's going to play queen e5 and rook c8, and I mean, I am just busted. So I take here, all right? Now I'm up a knight, but I mean, I can't move any of my pieces. Fabi plays rook here, check, and I go rook f6. Now, he has 2 pawns. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pawns. I have 5. I can't move my knight at all. Very simple move here is simply to take, but he plays the best move, which is queen e7. That's literally checkmate. So Fabi is basically checkmating me on the spot. I play the move g5 to give my king a little bit of breathing room. He has to be winning here, but the idea is not so straightforward. It's like queen f8 and then queen h8. So you check me and then you go here. It's kind of a, I mean, it makes sense. And then you try to make space for your rook. It's a quiet move, but he goes check. And then here he's just like, yo, let me just take this. Like, I have to be winning. But notice how it goes from having an M. The evaluation has like plus 14 to only plus. This is some new delay on chess.com, this thing, plus 3.7. I come in with my queen, and before you know it, I'm like, wait a minute, am I even like much worse here? And here I'm like, I don't even think I'm losing. So from 40 seconds down and literally mated, I'm only a pawn down in an endgame, and I'm about to walk with my king, and that's exactly what happens. So suddenly I can feel that Fabi is panicking. I'm like, he's totally panicking. I've made a huge comeback. I've defended against the number 3 in the world. We're in a time scramble. I have more time. How do I have more time? He's trying to win my pawn. He takes. I take with the king. He now has to stop me. So rook a7. I think I went b5 and he went here. And this is a total draw. So this is a totally drawn endgame because ultimately, as everything simplifies down, white will be left with a king and a pawn and a rook, and I'll be left with king and rook, and it's a draw. I mean, like, as long as you have your king in the vicinity of the defending area, which I will, but anything can happen in a rook endgame. More on that later. We get into a scramble. Fabi's pre-moving like crazy. My hand is shaking. Look at this. I'm barely making moves. 18 to 21. A5 is a nice little idea. I trade off a couple of pawns. Total draw. I've gotten Fabi exactly where I want him, but I'm down 4 seconds. Of course, Fabiano is not going to make a draw against me. He starts giving me a million checks. I'm barely making moves. I'm now down 5 seconds on the clock. Rook a6, rook b6. It's still a draw. I'm running my king around. And Fabi accidentally blunders king to f4, and I am threatening his rook, but more importantly, I'm threatening mate on the edge of the board. Can you believe it? He basically just realized like he has to beat me on the clock here. He has no other choice, but he needed to move his king at least a little bit forward with the pawn to not let my king get so active, because in trying to beat me on time, 16 to 11, it's a total, I mean, this endgame, Fabiano should win 19 times out of 20 against me, and one of those times should be a draw because I beat him on time. Somehow we got a bonus category where he literally accidentally blunders a fork. This is a fork. King f4 is a double attack. I'm threatening the rook and I'm threatening a square. I mean, it's just, it's utter nonsense. I'm not even sure, neither one of us realized it was mate, by the way, because he had pre-moved a move, and then I was like, wait a minute, rook h6. And when I won this game, my rating went from 2987 plus 13 points to 3,000. Now, this was a pretty ridiculous way to get to 3,000, but I'll take it, all right? None of you can say you ever beaten Fabiano Caruana. Straight up, not a single person watching this video. Can you believe it? Except me. And I've done it twice now. Nuts, crazy games, interesting games, combative games. You have to get a little bit lucky sometimes, but in all of these games, I was fighting, I was equalizing, I was taking over the game at certain moments, except in this one. And I suppose, well, in the Bach game, at least I had some advantage in the opening. In this game, nope, not at all. But we still hung in there against the very best in the world. And yeah, I mean, I'm super proud. So still so much that comes up in these games is covered in my next book. Can't wait for all of you to check that out. A full-on guide for intermediate improvement to the advanced level. And actually, after I got to 3,000, I got to my peak rating, which I will make a separate video about, but I want some really nice games to get there. That's all I have for you today. Appreciate your support as always, and get out of here.